Hello everyone and welcome back to another painting tutorial with Oscar Lars Painting Studio. In this tutorial we're going to focus on how to paint large skin areas. The model in this video was kindly donated to us by Battlegrounds in Richmond, Virginia. Thank you so much for your contribution. We hope you're going to enjoy this tutorial. Let's begin. The first step is to cover the entire model's skin in a mix of Bugman's Glow and Castellan Green. This will give the skin an olive base tone, which I decided to use since I'm gonna have this model accompany my jungle-themed squig army. I don't mix a ton of green into the Bugman's Glow as I don't want it to overpower the skin color itself, but you definitely want it to be darker and mute the Bugman's Glow down noticeably. I have already put down a layer of this with the airbrush, but I apply a thin layer with brush still to ensure full and smooth coverage. I do this with a larger brush, a size 4 or more. After this I switch to my size 2 brush for better control and start to layer in a darker version of this mix. I do this by adding in a little bit more Castellan Green to it, and I apply this thinly to noticeable dark spots such as armpits and under crevices and close to the pant lining and stuff. The next step is to brighten up the mix again with a lot of Bugman's Glow and apply it to large surfaces in a semi-zenithal manner. I am blocking in most of it. Really think about large shapes here. You want to leave spots like the armpits, for example. When we get to the shoulder, I layer this mix all the way down, but not into the crease between the shoulder and the chest muscle. The point here is to make sure that you distinguish different shadows at different darkness around the model. How deep or shallow and how the muscles are angled is something you need to think about. This gives the skin, or anything else really, a much more realistic look. The next step is to apply pure Bugman's Glow to the model in a similar blocking and manner. Here close to the armpit, you can see how I'm utilizing a feathering technique to quickly blend the two skin tones together. This technique won't give you a super smooth result, but it eliminates the blocky look, and in such an area where it's not as noticeable, you can kind of get away with this. Okay, as you can see here, I got the Bugman's Glow blocked in, and you can start to see definition of all the major shapes. We are now going to start adding in Cadian Flesh Tone into the Bugman's Glow and start to bring out the muscle definition even more. Remember that with these steps, for maximum result, you want to go in and out with some glazes and really adapt to what you're seeing and how these shadows change as you apply the paint. Also remember not to go too fast, mix slow, but remember that this is also an army that you're painting this for. And you want to make sure that there's notable progression between the layers so that you can get it done and can start getting it on the battlefield. Now, as you can see, I've done the first mix of Bugman's and Cadian flesh tone, and I am focusing only on large shapes. You can see under his hand that I am saving the darker olive skin. That area is not important to address at this time, and you can always come back and apply reflective light onto those areas later. The next step is to mix in more Cadian flesh tone and brighten up the blocks we have established, and we do so by making each shape that we've done a little smaller than the previous one we've already painted on. Most of the time when you're painting a model, you have a sense of a strategy for how you're going to paint it. But once you actually put paint on the models, you'll start to see things you don't like. It's really important as a painter of anything really, paintings or model, that you're willing to adapt to what you see. Visual things in theory and practicality can differ significantly. As you can see here, I'm currently on screen trying to adapt as I am painting this skin. There's a big chance that you will use this tutorial to paint your own Mega Gargant, a model that we didn't have access to for this tutorial. That model's shape and pose is already different enough from this model that you'll run into these issues quite fast. So keep in mind that you need to look and change likely several times to get it to where you want it to be. The skin of these models is such a big part of them that I think it's really worth taking the extra time to get this right. For example, I can now see that this shadow right here is way too dark. So I go in and I soften it up a little bit. Okay, so now we've made it this far, you can clearly see the definition of the muscles, and you don't have to go more beyond this to get a good skin tone on a large surface. Equally so, you can even push this skin tone brighter by adding more brightness to the large skin patches and adapt as you go. What I'm going to do now is to show you how to do halo spots on the skin. You can do this now, you can do this as you brighten up a little bit more. These are reflections in the skin that doesn't conquer the mid-tone, but that highlights certain muscles and areas of interest where the light would hit it. Essentially, we go in and apply this brighter color in smaller shapes on these certain spots, and I'm going to do the spine, the shoulder, the back fold, the cranium. Knuckles will also be a good place to do this. And this is a good way to go that little extra mile. It may look more dramatic in the beginning, but as the colors dry, they darken down and make things a little bit more smooth. Now it's taken a bit of time to get to this point, but with large models and larger shape, it means that it's going to take longer to paint. Using a larger brush would always help to get things done faster. Just keep in mind that oftentimes it is patience that makes the models look great, not skill. As you can see here, the skin has a softness to it, but still has defined anatomy that makes the model look good from arm's length on the battlefield. The next thing we're gonna do is focus on getting the face done, which is always important to do well, as it is the focal point of any humanoid figure. For this, I'm swapping to my smaller brush and apply brightness to the shapes as we did with the muscles on the body, just scaled down. Around the mouth, I'm applying lines to give the illusion of dryness and cracking skin. This type of stuff helps to give some backstory to the miniature by including climate into the decision making. I am picturing that this Gargant has been eating a lot of carcasses and not really been using too many moisturizers. Now we have gone over blocking in color, we have gone over defining muscles, and we have gone over creating small halo effects on the skin. But the last thing I always like to do is to get a bit more color into the mix. I use these glazes, yellow, blue, and red. We already have green in the mix. You can use these glazes if you have them. You can also use contrast paint, but make sure that you thin them down properly. You definitely don't want to overpower and overtake the other colors on the palette with these glazes. Applying some of these colors will help to give more interest and life to the models. The blue we can use to give some darkness and the colder color into certain parts like the nostrils, the eyes, underneath the cheekbones, the armpits, etc. The next color I use is yellow, which I apply to the top of the muscles where the light would hit. Use this very sparingly, and if the yellow overtakes, go back and glaze in thinly with the skin tone to tone it down a little bit. Lastly, I apply red glaze to nose, lips, cheekbone, elbows, knuckles, etc. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. Editing was done by the amazing Martin Kramer. Intro animation was done by Robbie Chillstone. This miniature was donated by Battlegrounds, the best gaming store on the East Coast, in support of this project. I want to thank all of our patrons for making these tutorials possible. Benjamin Winans, Jason D. Fluffer, Jonathan Edlund, Joseph Larson, Mark Alexander, Mitzi, Matt Rotowski, Mike Elkins, Seamus, Stormcrutch, Torsten Schaps, and Warhammer OK. If you want to join this awesome group and contribute to these tutorials so we can continue to improve them, follow the link to our Patreon page below. If you want to support this project by picking up some official Oscar Lars Painting Studio merchandise, follow the link to our shop where you can find dice, stickers, and eco-friendly screen-printed shirts. The model and painting handle is by Games Workshop, the brushes and wet palette is by Redgrass. We love hearing from you, so share with us what you liked about the content, what you're working on, and if you have any wishes for future tutorials. I am trying to read and respond to everyone, but if I miss your comment, it is very much unintentional. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, and liking this video. See you soon and happy painting!